Hi everyone, this is Ved. This is the third lecture on functions. Today we will discuss few more topics. First topic is global and local variables. Let me create a heading for it. Global and local variables. Let us suppose there is a variable called global variable and I'm storing a string inside it. I am global variable and I'm creating a function. Function name is my function and passing no parameters in this. I'm creating one more variable in this function. Let us call it local variable and I'm assigning a string to this. I am local variable now I'm printing accessing global variable inside function and here I'm passing the variable name global variable. Now let's print one more. Here I'm printing local variable inside function and calling it local variable. Now let me call this function. I will elaborate all these things in a moment after writing all this. My function and here we go. Now let me explain all this. Here I have taken a variable called global variable and then I have created a function and in that function I have taken one more variable that is local variable and then I am printing global variable and local variable. Local variables are always created inside a function. Whatever the variables that is created inside a function is called local variable and the functions created out and the variables created outside the function are called global variables. Now let's see the accessibility of local variables and global variables. Here I am printing accessing global variable inside the function and I have given the variable name global variable. I'm just trying to see either I can print the global variable inside the function or not. And similarly here I am printing accessing local variables inside the function and local variables I have given the name of local variable. And here you can see once I call this function there is no error, means I can access global variable inside the function and of course local variables we can access inside a function. Now let's try to print global variable here as well outside the function. I'm just copying this and pasting it here. Let's see whether I can, if it throws an error means I cannot access global variables outside the function. Let's see whether it throws error or not. Here you can see that I can simply print this I am global variable, means I can access global variables outside the function as well and inside the function as well. Now let's print this local variable. What do you think, it will throw an error or not? Comment below if you think it will not throw an error. Let me run this code and it will throw an error. Here you see this, it says local variable is not defined because we are trying to, while the error is showing up, because we are trying to access local variable outside the function. This is the function. If I just here you can see, once I'm calling this function, my function, I'm able to print this I am a local variable, because this is the local variable inside a function which is called my function. So its existence is only in that function where it is created. Here local variable is created in my function, so that's why its existence is only with my function. Once I call this my function, inside this function I can print this local variable, but once I come out of this function, here you can see in this code I'm printing this local variable outside the function, so I'm not able to access this because local variables cannot be accessed globally, but global variables we can access globally. So if I conclude, we can access global variables inside a function and outside the function, whereas local variables can be accessed only inside the function in where we have created that local variable. We cannot access local variables outside the given function where it was created, whereas global variables can be accessed inside any function and outside. Throughout the code we can access global variables. So there are two important points that we can note here. First point is that global variables are defined outside the function, whereas local variables are defined inside the function. Second point is that local variables can be accessed only in the function where they are defined. Here we can access local variable only within the function where it is defined. Here we have defined local variable in the function my function. That's why I can access local variable only in the given function where it is defined. I cannot access local variable outside the function. That's why you can see here it is showing an error, that is name error. Local variable is not defined because we cannot access local variables outside the function where it was defined. Global variables can be accessed from anywhere. We can access it from outside the function or inside the functions. So global variables can be accessed from anywhere, either from any function or outside the function, whereas local variables can be accessed only within the function where it was defined. Now let's discuss another concept, that is creating global variables inside functions. So let me create a heading for it. Creating global variables inside function. I'm defining a function set global variable. I'm passing no parameters, and I'm using a global keyword. Whenever we want to declare a global variable inside a function, we use this keyword global. It is the Python keyword to declare global variables inside a function. And then I'm writing a variable name, that is global var. It's a variable, you can write anything. You can write your name, my name, instead of writing global var. Just to make it easy, I'm just writing it global var so that you can understand it is the global variable. And I'm assigning a string to it, is global var, and I'm assigning a string. I am a global variable created inside a function. And I'm printing it simply global var. Now let me call this function set global variable, and here I can see it is printing. But as we know, I just want to check either it is global variable or not. So how can I check? as we discussed earlier, global variables can be accessed inside the function and outside the function. So if I can access this variable outside the function, then I would be saying that it is a global variable. Let's print this variable global var. I'm printing this variable global var, and let's see if it throws an error, then I will say that it is not a global variable. But if it doesn't throw any error, then I will say it is a global variable. Let's see what happens. Here you can see I can access this variable outside the function as well. So I can conclude that this global variable I can access inside the function and outside the function as well. So I can say it is a global variable. Here I haven't called function, I have simply printed this variable global var, and it is not throwing an error. So I can say that it is a global variable because I can access this inside a function. Once I call the function, I can access this inside a function, and when I don't call the function, I'm simply printing this variable, and even though I'm not getting an error, it is printing the string that is assigned to it. So it is a global variable. So we have created a global variable inside a function. Let's discuss one more topic: modifying global variables inside function. Let me create a heading for it: modifying global variables inside function. Let's create a variable, a global variable, counter, setting it to 0, and then creating a function modifying, or simply say modify global variable, passing no parameter in it, and then using keyword global to use the global variable inside the function. Here with the global keyword, we are using the global variable counter inside the function, and then I'm incrementing the value of counter by 1 and simply printing modifying global variable inside function, and I'm simply passing the variable over here. Now let me call this function modify global variable now. Here you can see that initially the value of counter is set to 0. Now here in the function modify global variable, we are increasing the value of counter by 1 and we are printing it here. Now it says 1, and now let's see either if we print the counter variable. Let's see what is the value of it. Here you can see it is now changed from 0 to 1. So we can say that we are able to modify global variable inside a function. Let me show this to you again. Now the counter value is 1, and if again we call this function, so 1 plus 1, the counter value would be set to 2. So let me call this function over again. Here you can see that counter value is 2 now. Again let's print the global variable counter. Its value should be 2 now, and here you can see it is 2. So we are able to modify global variable inside the function. Some people ask me that whenever you are modifying global variable inside function, so here counter is already a global variable, so whenever you are using this counter variable in the given function, why are you explicitly mentioning global keyword here, as it is already a global variable. So let me explain this. I'm copying this code over here, pasting it here, and I'm just removing this global, and I'm setting the counter value to 0. Now here you can see that we have two variables having same name, counter. One is inside the function and one is outside the function. The counter variable that is inside the function, that is called local variable, and the variable counter which is outside the function, that is a global variable. Now let me call this function modify global variable. Now here you see that initially the counter value is 0 and now it is increased to 1, and so here we see the value 1. It is for this counter, but which is inside the function, and that's why it is local variable. But if I call this counter, if I print this counter, here its value won't be changing, it would remain 0. That's what the difference is. That's why we have to explicitly mention global. That tells that we are using the global variable counter inside the function. But here if I am not using the keyword global, so it simply says that we have created another variable and that variable will work only inside the function, and that would be a local variable. So we won't be able to modify the global variable counter. The counter value is changed only inside the function, but when I'm printing the counter variable outside the function, it is showing me the same value, which is 0. So that's the difference. Now let's discuss overriding global variables inside function. I'm creating a heading for it. Overriding global variables inside function. I'm creating a global variable x and assigning a value 10 to it, and then creating a function def override global variable and passing no parameters in it, and I'm creating a local variable with the same name as of global variable x and assigning a value to it as 20, and simply printing overriding global variable inside function, and let's pass x, and here once I call this function override global variable. So here we see x is equals to 20. So here we can see that within the function x is local variable and outside the function x is global variable. Let me print x, and here it will be printing 10 because we are printing x outside the function, and outside the function x is a global variable, so it is printing 10, but inside the function whenever we are calling the function, so x is printing 20 because we are overriding the global variable within the scope of the function. So within the scope of the function x will be printing 20 as it is a local variable for the override global variable function. We can have one more scenario that we don't have a local variable. Let me copy this code and I'm printing it here, and we don't have local variable x over here. In this scenario, global variable would be printing here the value of global variable x is 10. So if I call this function override global variable, so it prints 10, and if I print x outside the function, even though it will print 10. So this is the scenario for overriding global variables inside the function. And let's move on to the next topic, that is the performance of local and global variables. Performance of local and global variables. I want to talk about performance of local and global variables in terms of time. So let me import time module, and then I'm creating a variable that is global var. I'm assigning a value 0 to it. It's global variable, and then I'm defining a function access global variable, passing no parameter in this. Now I'm just using the global keyword and then writing global var. In the function I'm specifying that I'm using global var variable as a global variable, and then for num, that is number, for num in range, let's say 10 lakhs, let's say 10 lakhs, and then what I'm doing is that I'm incrementing the global variable value by 1, global var 1, and I'm printing. And now what I will do is that I want to count the time, how much time it takes for this code to run. So I will write a start time, and I will use the time function from the time module. I'm saying that I'm assigning this into a variable that is start time. Similarly, I will, once the code is done, I will write end time, and that will be equal to time dot time. And now I will simply print. I will explain all this code in a while. Time taken to access global variable is, and I will simply pass end time minus start time. Here it should be start, so it is start. Okay, now let me create another function, def access local variable, and again the same thing, start time. I want to know the time taken to access the local variable. Start time equal to time dot time. I'm storing time dot time in the start time variable, and then I'm defining a local variable. I have created a local variable over here, assigning it a value 0, and then same thing for num in range. I need to take the same range so that I can compare the time. 10 lakhs, and then local variable, I am incrementing its value by 1, and then Let me add some more cells. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, now I will again mention and time, and then time dot time. I will print time taken to access local variable is end time minus start time. It is throwing an error. Let me remove this space, and now it is working. Let me call this to function access global variable and then access local variable. And now you can see time taken to access global variable is 0.37 and time taken to access local variable is 0.27. Means from this we can conclude that we can access local variables way easier than global variables. Local variables take less time to access than global variables. And now think why it happens. Local variables are defined inside the scope of a function, so whenever I want to access local variables, I can simply call the function and I can access the local variable, whereas whenever it comes to global variables are defined outside the scope of any function. So whenever I have written 1000 or 10,000 lines of code and I need to access the global variable, then Python code will have to search for that global variable throughout the code. That's why accessing global variables takes more time in comparison to local variables. Let's increase one more zero here and let's see. Here it is taking more time, and yeah, here you can see that time taken to access global variable is 3.55 for it is around 1 crores. Yeah, it is around 1 crore. So in the range of 1 crore, it takes 3.55 up to the 2 decimal points. It is taking 3.55 seconds to access global variables, whereas it is taking 2.35 seconds to access local variables. So this is about performance of local and global variables. I call access global variable. The moment I call this function, I am starting the timer. Time.time function calculates the current time in seconds. So I'm just starting the timer, and then we access the global variable and we increment the global variable value for the given range, that is 1 crore. Once we come out of the loop, we calculate the time over again, the current time, and I'm storing that value into end time, and the difference of end time and start time will give me the time taken to access the global variable, or similarly access global variable. The moment I call this access local variable, I'm starting the timer and I assign some value to local variable, and then I'm incrementing its value up to 1 crores. The time after coming out of the loop, I'm storing the time in end time, and then again end time minus start time. So initial time I'm storing, the moment I call the function, I'm storing that time into start time, and the moment we come out of the loop, I'm storing that time in end time, and the difference between end time and start time will give me the time taken by this function to execute, or you can say that time taken to access the local variables. And if you have any doubt about time function, let me give a brief idea about it. We have a time module, in that we have time function. It shows the current time in seconds, and we are calculating it since January 1st, 1970 UTC. So it calculates the current time in seconds.